My first question is, usually the meetings are at 7:30. I was just wondering why this one is at 7 o'clock. Just a little question about that. Next, you were talking about the Internet Design Company in the committee. I was wondering if you could state for the record the name of that company?
Or you can, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Also, if you could talk more about the ROSI that you were speaking of earlier. I was wondering, where does that inventory exist? Is that something that I would fill out an OPA request for? Is that something that you're going to plan on having available on the new websites? Also, you said that there's no science behind how you determine the amount of open space that you want. I want to say that one more time. You said there's no science behind how you determine the amount of open space that you want. Let me tell you how I interpret that. I interpret that as saying that you have no objective basis by which you determine how much open space you think is necessary. So the way that I interpret that, and I would please, if you could correct me if I'm wrong or clarify something here, it sounds almost arbitrary when you just are going to take open space when you kind of feel like it. Now, with all due respect, I did hear Councilman Shapiro that you did say that you've been careful and that you don't take every proposal available, and that you consider things such as what's best for the environment. You look at prices and such. So it's like I see one half of it. I see the half where you say, like, this could be a good deal. This could maybe, it would not be a lot of money in your mind, and you think that it would be good to have. But I guess what I'm understanding is it seems like the way that you're positioning this, it's as if you're saying you're just going to keep taking open space and keep taking open space and keep taking open space, and the public is going to have no kind of transparency with what you think is concretely and objectively necessary. And I bring this up again also because let's go back to the open space plan that you have, that I have a request for. It says that we've exceeded the recommended amount of open space. We've by far exceeded it, in fact. So I'm just curious, like, where do you get, in your mind, is there really just an unlimited amount of open space that you want? Or do you see like a limit? And I know that you said, for example, that you are making sure that you bring in new residents and that you are bringing in new businesses. I guess I'm just curious, like, how do you determine how much is sufficient? I would like to hear about that. Because you can say, well, there's no science behind it, so, well, this number sounds good and that number sounds good, but that doesn't mean anything to anybody. It's like, you have a monopoly on the thinking behind that, and I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that's good for the residents of East Windsor. So if you could address that, I think that would be great. Next, wanted to thank the gentleman from Jersey Central Power and Light for speaking tonight. Thank you. It's very important to hear. Next, I did want to hear what you had to say in response to Rescue Squad 2. There were some serious concerns raised. I understand that there is a disputes, conflict, like we talked about it in previous meetings. I understand that you're being sued over this, so there are things that you can and cannot say. I totally understand that. At the same time, I think I've asked you for things that I don't see why, as a matter of transparency, I don't see why it would infringe upon whatever you're not supposed to say, why you're not supposed to say it in a, why you're not supposed to talk about it outside of the court case. So for example, I asked you just specifically, what resolution did Rescue Squad 2 violate? What ordinance did they violate? What written agreement? I just, as a matter of transparency, even pretending I'm not taking sides, supposing I'm not taking sides, I'm just curious concretely and specifically in writing, what are you referring to that they violated? If I've asked you for that, I sent you a voicemail asking you about that. It's like the third time I'm asking, and I kind of appreciate you responding to me. I think it's not nice to not respond to people. Additionally, there's some disconcerting allegations here. Is it true, folks, is it true that there's no ambulance response in Twin Rivers? Is it true? You don't want to answer that, okay. Is it true that there is an increase rather a decrease in emergency response times? Is this true or false, I wonder? And also, if you could state for the record, what do you consider, each of you, to be a significant increase in emergency response time? I want to repeat that. What do you consider to be a significant increase in emergency response time? If Rescue Squad 2 was able to respond X minutes, but the replacement rescue squad is lagging behind and it's taking them longer, at what point do you say, well, it's a negligible discrepancy? At what point do you say, well, this isn't up to par, this is something that needs to be addressed? And at what point do you say, if it really is a significant emergency response discrepancy, I mean, why wouldn't you at least acknowledge the fact that I brought up the prospect of you guys settling outside of court? The fact, excuse me, please, I really don't like when you speak over me.
I asked you to please finish up.
Okay, but I just ask that you don't say it while I'm talking. I would appreciate that. See, because every time you cut me off, it's like I'm in the middle of a thought, and I have to go back and get there again. Right, so I had asked you in previous meetings these various questions, and you didn't respond to any of them. What gives with that, I wonder? And they talk about inadequate staffing with respect to emergency response time. Just, a comment on this would be nice to hear, instead of just nothing. It sounds almost like, it's a lack of transparency, I think. And so, I'll just close by saying, I'd appreciate a response to these questions. I think it's great government to respond to questions that people bring forth to you. Thank you very much.
Anybody else from the public? Okay, so I'm going to close matters from the public. We have responded and commented on these matters in the past, and with respect to let's see if there's any other matters that are not on the agenda. Velocity is a form that we maintain, as I indicated in our comments for Green Acres. I think also, quite frankly, that the comments made by all the members up here express quite clearly how we go about formulating our open space plans, targeting properties, and what the goals are for the town. I think there's no need to repeat those again. I think they were quite clear. At this point, if there's anything further. Anything else? Anything else?